What's good, boys? It's been a minute since I've uploaded. Today's video is going to be a bit more personal. I kind of want to talk about heartbreak, what it teaches us, how it changes us, and why it hurts even though we know it's for the best. So the last couple weeks, I've been dealing with heartbreak as I've recently just got broken up with my girlfriend of almost 2 years. Safe to say, I'm not really sure how I feel. I took this last couple weeks to kind of just self-reflect on the relationship. I'm not going to get into too much detail as to what happened. That's kind of the reason why I haven't uploaded as of recently. So I've been kind of taking some time off from content creating just to kind of self-reflect and work on myself a little bit. You know, heartbreak is something everybody goes through at some point. I'm not talking about like the stupid fucking traumatic heartbreak from like TV shows and shit like that where like the girl sobbing her tears out on tissues and crying and eating ice cream and all that other cringy bullshit. No, I'm talking about the ones that show up in like the weirdest moments in your everyday life. You can be casually chilling, eating something, and maybe a certain smell, or maybe you play a certain track, or you watch a certain show, and it just hurts. It reminds you of everything about them, you know, how you guys used to sit down and watch TV. Maybe it was your favorite anime, it was maybe a favorite hangout spot, you know, it almost feels like you're grieving in a sense. But the thing is like they're not dead, right? It's just they're gone. They're not with you anymore in terms of like relationship wise. They're just, it's almost like a piece of you is just missing, you know. That's the heartbreak I'm talking about. You know, it's not always the big memories that hurt. It's the tiny routines that you guys used to do you didn't realize were meaningful until it's all gone. Everybody talks about heartbreak like it's one big deal, like one big moment, but in reality it's 100 tiny moments you weren't prepared for. Or I would like to say it's death by 1,000 cuts. You know, all the little things that happened during the course of the relationship, it all adds up, and you know, sometimes they'll just pile up, and it hurts the most when you realize, looking back at it, how there are so many different signs and moments where, like, you know, there was discomfort, there was frustration, there were red flags, there were signs, but they were too small, too minor for you to really acknowledge or really care about. By the time you realize it, it's too late. One of the things people don't really talk about when it comes to heartbreaks is how much it bruises your ego. Sometimes it's not even the person that you miss per se. It's that feeling of just being chosen, you know, being wanted, being seen, being heard, feeling like you have a connection with somebody finally. And when that all goes away, your brain basically just like, what the fuck happened? Was I not enough? Was I not putting enough effort? Was it something wrong? Was it something I did? Was it something I said? It fucks with you mentally, and you know, it leads you down a very shitty rabbit hole. Before you know it, you know, you're empty, you're hurt, you're sitting in your room for days at a time, isolated, not talking to anybody, you know, barely eating, barely drinking. You know, it reminds me of that one scene from Regular Show with Mordecai when he was dealing with the breakup with Margaret. He was sitting in his room for days and days, listening to the same song on repeat, just at his lowest point in his life during the show. You know, that's how heartbreak feels. You know, it feels like you're at your lowest point. You kind of feel hopeless. But here's the truth though, when it comes to heartbreak, it says more about the mismatch than it ever says about your worth. You can be an amazing person, you can do everything right, you can listen to them, you can communicate with them, you can give them everything they ever wanted and needed, but in the end, sometimes you're just not somebody's person. That's not failure, that's just life. And one of the things I definitely do notice now that she's no longer with me, like how I said earlier about the routine, I would talk to her almost every day. We worked together, we talked every day, we joked, we laughed, you know. Now it's just nothing. It's empty. I haven't texted her, I haven't talked anything to her at work. The communication we used to have is basically non-existent at this point, and suddenly you realize that there's a lot of time you used to fill with somebody, and now it's just you. You know, and this part is really uncomfortable. You know, it definitely fucking sucks. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It fucking sucks. I miss seeing text messages of her saying good morning, and you know, we send each other TikToks and reels or whatever the hell we were discussing about, you know, anime or whatever we were talking about. Now that that's gone, it's kind of lonely. If I'm being honest with you, it's really lonely. We still have our friends and all that, but of course, having somebody you love and having somebody who's very special, dear to you, not having them anymore, that's the hardest part. Realizing that all the things that you guys used to do together, you're now doing by yourself. You know, the last 4 weeks of me just kind of taking a break from everything, you know, I'm starting to rediscover myself again. You know, I'm slowly making my way back to how I was before I started dating. You know, I want to go back to making content. You know, I got some other things in my personal life I need to get a hold of, you know, just to get my life in order. You know, I'm still trying to get my car, and you know, I want to put more effort into my content and stuff, at least for the time being, because you know, I definitely want to make that a priority. I think for right now, in the current stage of my life. I don't know how exactly I'm going to end this video, because this is a little bit more personal if I'm being honest with you, but I just asked ChatGPT for some tips on heartbreak and all that. So this is what ChatGPT says. Healing is slow, but it's real, and it shows up in tiny ways. When you laugh without forcing it, when you sleep through the night, when your first thought in the morning isn't them, When you catch yourself daydreaming about something new, not about fixing the past, you wake up suddenly over it. It's more like you look back one day and you realize you made it through a week without hurting the same way, and that's a quiet kind of victory. So if you're in the middle of a heartbreak right now, just know this: it won't feel like this forever. You're learning, you're growing, and you're becoming someone softer and stronger at the same time. Take your time. Be gentle with yourself, and remember, heartbreak doesn't mean you lost love. It means you're on your way to finding the kind that lasts. And I think I'm gonna end it right there for the video, and sorry for the lack of uploads. Give me like another couple days or so and I'll get back on my regular schedule program. But right now I just want to take some time and just slowly get back into the swing of things. I know I've been gone for so long. I want to get better at that. 2026 is around the corner, so there's always next year. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this little video of mine, and yeah, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. And if you're going through heartbreak right now just like me, we'll be fine. You know, don't lose hope.